In 2006, a team of researchers examined 528 human skulls spanning 28,000 years. What they found didn't make sense. The older the skull, the better the teeth. Perfect alignment, minimal wear, almost no cavities. Then, around 10,000 years ago, something changed. Teeth started shrinking, jaws started narrowing, cavities exploded. It was like a switch flipped. An entire species went from near-perfect dental health to a slow-motion dental collapse. And no one was brushing less. Something else happened.
To understand what went wrong with your teeth, you have to understand what went right for 300,000 years before you.
Your mouth is not designed for the life you're living. Your jaw, your teeth, the bacteria that coat your gums, all of it was shaped by a world that no longer exists. A world where every single meal required real physical effort. Tearing meat off bone, cracking nuts with your molars, grinding raw roots until they were soft enough to swallow. Your ancestors chewed for hours every single day. Not because they wanted to, because that's what food demanded.
And it worked. For hundreds of thousands of years, it worked perfectly. No toothbrush, no toothpaste, no fluoride, no floss, no 6-month checkups. And yet, almost no cavities, almost no crowding, almost no decay.
You do all of those things, and your teeth are worse.
Let's start with what we know for certain.
In 2013, a study published in Nature Genetics analyzed ancient dental calculus, hardened plaque, from 34 early European skeletons spanning the Mesolithic to the medieval period. The lead researcher, Alan Cooper from the University of Adelaide, wasn't studying teeth. He was studying what lived on them.
What he found was a timeline of collapse. Before farming, human mouths hosted a diverse, balanced bacterial ecosystem. Dozens of species coexisting, none dominant, none destructive. Cavities were essentially non-existent. Then, agriculture arrived. Wheat, barley, domesticated grains, and the entire microbial landscape of the human mouth shifted. Bacteria that thrive on simple carbohydrates exploded in population. Species like Streptococcus mutans, the single greatest driver of tooth decay on Earth, went from a background player to the dominant organism in your mouth. Cooper identified a second major shift during the Industrial Revolution, when refined flour and processed sugar became widely available. The bacterial diversity in human mouths collapsed even further. Your mouth, right now, contains one of the least diverse microbial ecosystems in 300,000 years of human history. Not because you don't brush, because of what you eat. The timeline is almost surgical. Before 10,000 years ago, near zero cavities. After farming took hold, cavities everywhere. After industrialization, a full-blown epidemic. But bacteria were only part of the story. Here's something your orthodontist probably never told you. In 2011, Noreen von Cramon-Taubadel, a biological anthropologist at the University of Kent, published a study comparing the jaw structures of 11 populations across 6 continents. Some were agricultural, some were hunter-gatherer. The pattern was the same everywhere. Hunter-gatherers had wider jaws, broader dental arches, and room for every single tooth, including their wisdom teeth. Agricultural populations had narrower jaws, crowded teeth, and the exact alignment problems you pay thousands of dollars to fix. Here's the critical part. The difference wasn't genetic. Populations that shared the same ancestry but switched to farming showed the same jaw shrinkage within just a few generations. It wasn't who they were, it was what they ate. When you chew tough, resistant food, raw meat, fibrous tubers, hard-shelled nuts, uncooked plants, your jaw muscles work hard. That mechanical stress during childhood does something essential. It stimulates bone growth in the mandible and maxilla. Your jaw grows wider. Your dental arch expands. When your permanent teeth finally come in, there's room for all of them. 32 teeth in a jaw built to hold exactly 32 teeth. Everything fits. No crowding, no impaction, no intervention needed. Now think about what you ate as a kid. Soft bread, mashed potatoes, yogurt, cereal that dissolves in milk, chicken nuggets cut into shapes, pasta cooked until it's tender, applesauce from a pouch, foods that barely require chewing. Your jaw didn't get the mechanical signal to grow, so it didn't. It stayed narrow.
But your teeth came in on schedule anyway, programmed by genetics that assumed you'd been chewing like every human generation before you. 32 teeth tried to fit into a jaw built for 28. That's why your wisdom teeth got impacted. That's why you needed braces. That's not bad luck. That's not bad genes. That's a jaw that never received the one thing it needed to develop correctly: resistance. But crowding is one problem. Decay is another. And the evidence for that is even more damning. In 1939, a Cleveland dentist named Weston published a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. At the time, the medical establishment largely ignored it. Price had spent 10 years traveling to some of the most remote communities on Earth. Swiss alpine villages cut off by mountain passes, Gaelic fishing communities in the Outer Hebrides, indigenous groups deep in the Amazon basin, Aboriginal Australians living in the outback, Maori communities in rural New Zealand, Inuit families in northern Canada. He wasn't theorizing about nutrition. He was opening mouths and counting teeth. The results were stunning. Group after group, continent after continent, people eating traditional diets who had never seen a toothbrush had near zero cavities. Their teeth were straight, their arches were wide, their gums were pink and firm. Some of these populations had cavity rates below 1%. 1% with zero dental care. Then, Price examined members of the exact same ethnic groups who had moved to towns and adopted Western diets: white flour, refined sugar, canned vegetables, jam, sweetened tea, biscuits. Within one generation, their teeth collapsed. Not over centuries, not gradually. One generation. Children born to parents eating modern diets had narrower faces, more crowded teeth, and dramatically higher rates of decay than their grandparents who had eaten traditionally their entire lives. Same genetics, same water, different food, completely different mouths. The mechanism behind the decay is straightforward. Streptococcus mutans feeds on simple carbohydrates: sugar, white flour, processed starch. When it feeds, it produces lactic acid. That acid dissolves your enamel. That's a cavity. For 300,000 years, your ancestors ate almost no refined carbohydrates. The bacteria in their mouths had nothing to produce acid from. No fuel, no acid, no decay. The system was self-regulating. Today, the average American consumes roughly 77 grams of added sugar per day. That's about 17 teaspoons. Every single time you eat, you're flooding your mouth with the exact substance that turns harmless oral bacteria into enamel-dissolving machines. You're doing it 5, 6, 7 times a day, and then you wonder why you still get cavities. If you think this is just ancient history, look at the people who never left that world behind. The Hadza are a hunter-gatherer group in northern Tanzania. As of recent studies, roughly 1,000 Hadza still live a lifestyle that closely mirrors how all humans lived for hundreds of thousands of years. They eat wild tubers, baobab fruit, berries, game meat, and honey, one of the most sugar-dense natural foods on the planet. They don't farm, they don't process their food, they don't own toothbrushes. In 2014, biological anthropologist Alyssa Crittenden from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas studied the dental health of Hadza adults. Despite consuming significant amounts of wild honey, their cavity rate was remarkably low, far lower than any Western population. Their jaws were wide, their teeth were aligned, no braces, no fluoride treatments, no dental visits, ever. The honey is the detail that changes everything. It proves this isn't simply about avoiding sugar, it's about the complete system. The Hadza eat honey alongside tough, fibrous foods that physically scrub the teeth and stimulate heavy saliva flow. They chew for hours every day on tubers so dense they break a fork. Their oral microbiome is fundamentally different from yours, populated by bacteria that don't produce the acids that destroy enamel. It's a complete ecosystem. Diet, jaw mechanics, bacterial balance, saliva production, all working together. And it works. But take one piece out. Remove the fiber. Remove the hours of chewing. Keep the sugar. Add processed starch. The ecosystem falls apart. That is exactly what the modern diet does. You isolated one ingredient from a complex system and wondered why everything broke. Here's the part that gets me. You spend $300 on an electric toothbrush. You buy fluoride rinse and whitening strips and charcoal powder and whatever else the internet told you would help.
You sit in a dentist chair twice a year while someone scrapes calcified plaque off your teeth with a metal hook. You've probably spent more money on your mouth in the last 5 years than an ancient human spent in their entire lifetime.
Because they spent nothing, and their teeth were better than yours.
You might drop $5,000 on braces, maybe $8,000, maybe more, all to correct a jaw that would have grown correctly on its own if someone had just handed you a raw carrot instead of a chicken nugget when you were 6 years old, all to straighten teeth that were never supposed to be crooked in the first place. Your ancestors chewed roots in the dirt and never had a single cavity. You eat a granola bar and need a root canal.
The problem was never hygiene. It was never laziness. It was never your genetics. The problem is that 10,000 years ago, we changed what we ate. We made food softer. We made it sweeter. We made it faster to chew and easier to swallow. And in doing so, we built the perfect conditions for everything that's wrong with your teeth right now. Narrow jaws, crowded teeth, acid-producing bacteria with an unlimited food supply. Every cavity you've ever had is not a failure of brushing. It's a receipt for a diet your teeth were never designed to handle. 528 skulls, 28,000 years. The older the skull, the better the smile. The answer was sitting in the data the whole time. Your teeth were perfect once. Not because anyone took care of them, because the world did it for us. Then we changed the world, and our mouths never caught up.